Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Fruit Loop will be back. We'll be together tonight, I promise, for the big Lori Vallow news. She's competent. It's about time. We're going to discuss that in depth in just a little bit. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Two Cool T-Shirt Quilts. You can go to twocooltshirtquilts.com /pretty lies and alibis. Check them out. They'll know we sent you. We really appreciate their support. All right. So let's get started on Anthony Todt. Today was the first day of testimony in his trial. We did an episode on this last week where we give a little bit of the backstory, the facts as we knew them last week. So if you have not listened to that, you might want to do that first if you're not familiar with this case. It's really interesting, super sad case, as they all are. So let's get started. So the prosecutor got up and essentially just said that in December, the extended family of the Totes got concerned. And her sister called and asked, Anthony's sister called and asked for a welfare check. And so you're going to hear how he suffocated Zoe. You're going to hear about Alexander, the oldest, how he was sleeping. The defendant told the detective that he suffocated Alexander and stabbed him. After that, he went to Tyler, who was sleeping on a sofa bed, and he told investigators he was more concerned about Tyler because Tyler was the fastest of the kids, and he was afraid Tyler would escape if he wasn't successful. He did the same thing to Tyler that he did to Alexander. He suffocated and stabbed him. Anthony said to investigators that he and Megan had an agreement that everyone needed to die so they could be together on the other side since the apocalypse was coming. Megan had 2 stab wounds, and Anthony told investigators that she stabbed herself in an attempt to commit suicide and it didn't work. So he said he suffocated her and he also suffocated the family dog. Then Anthony said after everyone was dead, he placed the bodies in the master bedroom. He said since their death, he had stayed in the rooms with their bodies. And that was kind of all for openings. Anthony was seen shaking his head, kind of just no, back and forth when the prosecutor was finishing up. So the first witness called was Sergio Montanus, a 911 operator, and he answered the welfare check call from Chrissy Caplet, who is the defendant's sister who lives in Connecticut. And if you remember, um, he was still working out of Connecticut and coming down to Florida on the weekends to be with his family. And she said it had been a couple of weeks since they had heard from the family, and she was worried because the last thing she knew is that they all were really sick with the flu. And she had tried to get in touch with Anthony, Megan, and one of her nephews, but was unable to. So they went out and did the welfare check and didn't see anything. So she called again on January 10th, and another dispatcher came on the stand at that point to testify about that 911 call. Neither of those witnesses were cross-examined. So the next witness was Robert Barroso. He is a deputy with the sheriff's office. And on January 2nd and the 7th, 2020, remember, this is right before COVID, so none of that was in play during this trial. He tried to contact Anthony or Megan at the residence and had no luck. He noticed that the blinds were closed, so he left a business card with his name and the phone number circled at the bottom for them to reach out, but obviously they didn't. And the defense did not cross-examine this witness either. So the next witness was Alexander Hogue with the sheriff's office. He responded to that second welfare check call that was on the 10th, and he actually saw the card that the previous deputy had left on the door. Now, that house had an above garage apartment, and he went there as well and knocked but got no answer. So apparently there's a condo associated with this address and it's close to the residence. So he went there and noticed another case card was outside from the deputy who had come before him. Again, knocked and got no answer. So he returned that next morning on January 11th to both locations to try to make contact again. And he knew that they had a maroon Honda Odyssey that they drove, and the van was behind that condo address, but not in the designated parking spot for the condo. And that was all he testified to. There was no cross on that. The next witness was Michael Phelps, not to be confused with the swimmer. In retirement, he is not a deputy. So he attempted to contact Anthony at the garage above that, the residence above the garage on January 13th. Now, this is the day he was arrested. While he was there, he saw Anthony sitting on the front porch, and there were a few sheriff's cars there. And it seems like when he saw those cars sitting there, he went inside. So they went to the door and knocked for a minute or two, and there was no answer. Phelps opened the door and noticed immediately, number one, the lights were off. It was dark in there, and there was a very foul odor. And at that point, there were 5 officers with him, and they found Anthony standing at the top of the stair, kind of the staircase, and they told him to come downstairs. Now, I've posted this clip on Facebook and Twitter. So if you don't follow us there, go give us a follow, subscribe on YouTube. I know we have a lot of new listeners coming in from the Facebook group for this. I posted in there that we're covering it. A lot of people said they just didn't have time to watch the trial. So that's what we do. We watch it for you so you don't have to and give you the best parts. So when asked where Megan was, Anthony said she was sleeping, and he kind of looked up towards the bedroom. And within a couple of seconds, he shouted her name. This deputy was the one that went upstairs and found the bodies. He said that he noticed they were discolored. They were black and blue. They were in moderate to advanced stages of decomposition. The boys were on top of a mattress, and he said it looked like their flesh was just falling off. And after the bodies of Megan and the boys were discovered, they asked Anthony where Zoe was. And Anthony said that she was either asleep, and then he referenced a sleepover. So on cross exam, the defense attorney asked, when you saw Anthony, was he waddling? And the officer said he was shaking and mumbling. And some of the things he was saying wasn't understandable. And the defense asked if he had urine on him, and the deputy said he did not know. And the defense attorney asked, did he stumble coming down the stairs? And the deputy said he was walking slow and needed to support himself with the handrail, but he came down on his own. So on redirect, the prosecution asked, when dealing with him, was he awake the entire time? And was he the only one alive in that residence? To which the deputy said yes. So the next witness was Sheriff's Deputy Chris Bowes. He also responded to the residence on January 13th. He was there before entry was made. Kind of the same thing he noticed when they went in. It was very dark. The air was stale, and he said there was a very foul odor in the air. He also sees Anthony at the top of the stairs as Anthony starts to walk down. So once Anthony came down the stairs, he asked Anthony if his wife was there, and Anthony said she was sleeping. When the deputy asked about the kids, he said they may be at a sleepover. So this deputy went to the master bedroom, and the door was halfway open. He could see a silhouette of a person covered with blankets and saw the mattress with the boys' bodies, who were also covered with blankets. They initially saw 3 bodies and did not see the youngest child, Zoe. So they looked in the bathroom and the closet for her. And they also went and looked into 2 bedrooms. One of the doors was locked, so they had to kick that in. They go back into that master bedroom and then notice the pile of blankets at the foot of the bed. When they removed those, they found Zoe. At this point, the state admitted a walkthrough video of the residence, just showing the different rooms and different evidence that they found. It also has that conversation with Anthony that we posted the short clip of. So on cross, the defense points out that Anthony was shaking and incoherent, and again says, you weren't present to know what happened in the house before your arrival. And he said no. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of Chandler Halderson. If you followed that trial with us, it was pretty obvious who had committed the crimes. But really all they had was, you don't know what happened in that house. I just saw a little similarity with that today with this case. On redirect, the state asked if he was awake the entire time, and he said yes, he was. So the next witness that they called was Emily Sadea, and she is with forensics with the sheriff's office, and she was the primary homicide technician. The power was not on when they entered the house, and it was later turned on once they realized that they were dealing with a crime scene. And they published some of the crime scene photos, nothing graphic. In fact, when they showed the jury pictures of how they found the bodies, the judge asked people streaming in the courtroom, the news crews, to not show that. and they did not. But the interior photos of the home, just in the kitchen, the living room, they showed some wrapped and unwrapped Christmas gifts. They showed the children's playroom, and they show inside of a trash hideaway, which, if you know, in a kitchen, you may have something that looks like a cabinet. You pull it out, and it's a trash can. They found an empty bottle of Benadryl. They found Benadryl all over this house. It was at in a bottle at the top of the stairs, in a closet, on the nightstand of the master bedroom. They found some in a trash can by the road with some CVS bags that contained several empty packets of Benadryl. And in another trash can, they found it full of the plug-in scents. You know, you can buy the adapters, plug it in, your house smells really good. They found the plastic containers that those come in. They also show a photo of what we know to be Zoe's room, and on top of a wicker basket is a Benadryl box. They did find a knife on a windowsill in the master bedroom, and the family dog, Breezy, was found wrapped in a blanket to the right of the bed. You could see to the right of the bed where the dog was, but they did not show the body. Thank goodness. They showed a picture of the master bedroom, and in there it shows a red utility strap with a loop and a knot tied. And to me, they haven't said yet where they're going with this, but it looked to me like it was big enough to fit over somebody's head. Maybe, um, you know, maybe he used that. I don't know. And they also found some zip ties. She photographed the bodies, and all of the victims did have rosaries in their hands. I had read it was just the boys, but according to testimony today, all 4 victims had rosaries. They showed pictures of the rosaries as evidence. So on cross exam, the defense asked, "Do you know the number of people who were on scene before you or how long they were there?" And she said no. Everyone was outside when she arrived, and they go through what law enforcement pointed out as evidence and then what she discovered as evidence as far as what was decided to be processed at the scene. They found some BB guns under the bed. They weren't processed. There was a total of 8 Benadryl packets found. So on redirect, the Benadryl bottle located in the wicker basket in Zoe's room, you got prints from that. And she said yes, she got 3 latent lift cards from that one packet. The next witness was Selena Mendez, the sheriff's office forensics technician. And on January 15th, just a couple of days after his arrest, he was taken to the hospital because he had overdosed on or tried to overdose on Benadryl. When he was released, she took photographs of Anthony, took fingerprints, took a buccal swab, which is DNA swab from the inside of the cheek that grabs those skin cells. And she said she spent about an hour with him and did not have to give Anthony any instructions other than how to position his body to take the photograph, how to hold his hand to take fingerprints, how to open his mouth to collect the DNA. She said he was calm and had no issue following her directions. So on recross, the defense attorney asks if she was aware that he had just been released to the hospital prior to this being done, and she said yes. So the last witness of the day was Erin West from the sheriff's office. She is with the latent print unit. It was a little hard to follow here because they were just using evidence numbers for the most part with some descriptions, but she got 14 latent prints in total and was able to compare those with Anthony's known prints that were taken by the previous witness a couple days after his arrest. They got latent prints taken from Benadryl boxes and bottles with obviously the prints they were able to get belonged to Anthony. Fingerprints from buck knives that were potentially used in the stabbing did not have enough evidence to establish a positive ID on those. In some of them, he was not excluded from 3 prints, but he was not positively identified as well. And so you kind of see where the defense is going to go with this, which is going to be, I think, like Chandler Halderson. You can't say who those other prints belong to. We know that they could be Anthony's, they may not be. So she says, "Did you get any prints from Megan?" And the technician said no, or I'm sorry, the lady in the latent print unit said no. I think probably at that point the body was just unfortunately too decomposed to get any fingerprints. And so the defense attorney asked if this is subjective, in other words, her opinion on whose prints they were, and she said yes. Then she asked, "Did you have someone check your work?" And she said yes. and she named whoever went behind her to verify that her results were agreeable as being Anthony's. And the last question was, "You're not aware of who consumed Benadryl?" And she said no. So that wraps up today. There wasn't much explosive evidence that was testified to, but it definitely establishes where we're going in this. So we appreciate you guys. Welcome to all of our new listeners. Hope you give us a follow across social media. We keep it clean, keep it fact based. And we will see you guys in just a little bit, where we are going to talk about Lori Vallow being found competent. Big, big day in that case. Maybe the biggest day since the murder charges came out. She's got an arraignment. We're going to talk all about that. So we'll see you guys soon. Have a good evening.